Hi, I'm Milla and welcome to another Milla's Gaming video. This one's going to be kind of a vlogish take, I suppose, based on things that I've been doing lately in relation to visual novels, hence the lovely wall up here of multiple physical games. And yeah, let's get into it. Algorithm stuff goes here. I'm going to try to do that more at the end this time, so yeah, skipping that. But if you know, you know. So basically, nowadays, I've been playing a lot on PC in terms of visual novels, because when it comes to visual novels, I've always kind of been exclusively a console player, and Witcher visual novels is kind of in comparison to other genres like JRPG, driven games, etc., it is kind of limiting because, well, most stuff is predominantly on PC, not so much consoles, and for me, due to my circumstances at the time, which were varied, which things like accessibility and personal circumstances, it was console's easier for me. But there's also something else which I think kind of driven a lot of it, which looking back now, especially that I've been playing on PC, educating myself more on how gaming industry and business stuff works, and also actually playing some stuff that's only available on PC in English, it's it's a bit flawed logic. And that logic is basically, if you bring a game to consoles, then surely there has to be a degree of quality control. And by that, I don't mean things like the literal Nintendo seal of quality, I mean things actual quality of the game itself, in terms of surely if a VN's that good, it will come to consoles to go to a wider audience, or surely if a VN's it comes to consoles, what are the problematic crap that's quite common, especially in the original 18 plus versions, will get cut out and removed and rewritten, or surely if a work is good enough, then these writers are willing to actually rewrite problematic stuff out, otherwise it's not good writing. And when I say problematic stuff, I don't mean I'm dead against R18 content, but especially when it comes to Busojo games, it can descend into very problematic, messed up territory extremely quickly. And I try to avoid that, not only on a moral level, but also as a trauma trigger level. I don't want to unnecessarily trigger myself. So for me, I think the conclusion that I came to was if I play on consoles, it's less likely that's going to happen, which it's crap basically. And that's basically why it's because that's what I used to have, and especially lately now my circumstances have changed. I've become more open to it and actually playing through things I missed out on. I'm kind of I'm on a camp of they're both great, and a lot of people, I think, especially PC crowds that tend to be really into the PC side, are oh, this is the best platform to play VNs on. And a lot of people do feel that way. And whereas I think consoles, especially when it comes to fan bases that are used to mainly play on consoles, especially Otome fans, oh no, console is the best format to play it on. And yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to both. I'm not going to go into a console versus PC debate, but I'm going to go into why both are great. So obviously, I think it's worth mentioning the whole business realities of it, because that greatly impacts a niche medium. And so for those who don't know, when it comes to releasing games on PC, it is often easier to do it on PC. So in the sense of it's not as often easier, it's, generally easier as the barriers are lower. So for PC, it's basically, you get a game, you make it, or you localize it into another language, you get it submitted and approved for Steam or these other storefronts, to your DMM site or whatever, and that's it basically. It's quite cheap, effectively, in comparison to consoles, because in consoles it's not just those steps. You've also got the extra costs of, getting the game rated by reputable ratings boards, getting, convincing retailers to stock your game if you're going to do a physical copy, and obviously, get approval from platform holders as well, so not just, Steam or other things. You don't have your own website to fall back on, you've got to, convince Nintendo or Sony or even Xbox to basically approve and list your shit, and that's takes a lot longer and a lot more time consuming, and for many of these smaller devs that either don't have the resources or their games are just extremely niche, it's like, yeah, we are not doing that shit. It doesn't justify the expenses, we're just going to limit it to PC because it's easier. And that's not quality control. Like, can you see how fucked that logic is? Because that's not quality control, that's literally access barriers. And that's conflating the two. And that's kind of the objective reality. And there's also other things as well that PC spheres are like better for. Like, obviously, like in the West, visual novels started via fan translations. You've got games in the back here like Clannad, for example, which is like the most iconic VNs ever. If you know what anime is, you know what Clannad is. The visual novel for that was fan translated before it got localized officially for PC, and then later came to PS4 and Switch. And it's quite similar for other things, like other key games like Little Busters, for example. That's also went for a similar pattern. And you've got Steins Gate, another one that came to PC first, like via Just, which is one of the visual novel specialist companies. And then that game is now on every fucking platform around, even like iOS, Android, Steam, Nintendo Switch in the case of the Elite version, and just it's everywhere. And that's often how it starts. You just kind of like, it's often like it just wasn't commercially viable to bring games to consoles, and it's like if you're getting to the end now with the Switch or PC, but especially consoles with Switch, like you're fucking spoiled for choice. Like most of the games behind me are Switch games. Almost all of them have English tech support, and these games are all like, we wouldn't have gotten games like these on consoles, like, well, except Steins Gate or Danganronpa or really other gameplay heavy games. Like, there's a reason a lot of people like were introduced, like Ace Attorney, the Last Window series, the Code, even Sakura Wars, which came west on Wii and PS2. That was a visual novel SRPG hybrid, so things like that tended to be what we got before now. And even then, it was a huge risk. Like, that's in the case of Sakura Wars, that's why we never got any of the games, because it was seen as a huge like risk. The risk for PC is considerably lower. And then, of course, for games that don't come west, there are fan translations. I played White Album 2 at the start of this year. That was an incredible experience and something I was waiting several years for. That's something that's still to date not been officially localized. Like, you can't go out to a shop and buy White Album 2. It's Japan only. But this fan translation is the only way you can play in English as things stand. That's the pattern for the end, as I mentioned before. And then you've got other examples, Kamatachi no Yoru, Rine Saizei. That patch is for the PC port of that. Again, exclusive to PC, and also not available officially. It was a Vita remake originally, but that version has not been translated despite Chunsoft, and Mages haven't localized it, so you can only play it on PC. And if you on consoles, you will miss out on that, and that's part of the course. And for me, like, being able to go back to PC has been kind of like liberating, because not only is it meant to be able to play such incredible experiences, but it's opening up to new ones too. Like, some examples of other patches I want to play, Kenga Kimi, the Legend of the Sword or something like that. That is having a patch in the works for its Steam release, like, not officially of course, but unofficially, because Reject hate the West. And then you've got a bunch of Nitro Plus stuff. Like, most of what I want to play is official, but one I want to play is actually the backported PS2 version of Deus Machina's Demon Bane, War of the Machine God. Like, that's another example of a really epic VN that got an enhanced PS2 port in Japan, which often happens for visual novels, often with extra content to encourage people to double dip, was then backported and then has had content. So I want to play that, and that's just another example. Then there are also translation ports, which is just porting official localizations. We see this on the Switch and the Vita especially. Like with the Switch, the most recent release off the top of my head is actually a translation port for the enhanced fan translation of Son of Pockets, which you can't actually play because there was two versions, the base version and Reflection Blue. We only got the base version officially on PC, but if you go into the world of fan translations, you can get Reflection Blue, which is basically expanded even better with extra content, that's been patched in. So that version, and then that's been patched into the Switch version. So superior experience, which in terms of PC stuff, like console modding is something that people recommend do anyway to get the most out of their consoles, but it's trickier to do, whereas on PC it's generally easier to get involved in dealing with unofficial stuff. Like in the case of PC, you've got like set like Japan region locales for games, and it took me fucking forever to install White Album 2 back in the day when I played that because of the cat stuff and things like that. And you got often never get Japanese text. It's not ideal, but it's more accessible on consoles, and that's something that it's just like if you're playing like, but it's easier to get into than like hoping things come to consoles never officially otherwise, and not everyone wants to hack their stuff. Even applies to patches of older games. Like obviously a PC you've got compatibility issues with older like releases on PC, but even playing emulators you can play the official releases of like Never 7 and Remember 11. They're like classic VNs which I want to play someday. PSP versions got patched in, and you can play that PSP version in an emulator on PC, and that'll actually be like more accessible than just trying to get the whole PC version working in terms of compatibility, because that can be a pain. Because technical stuff on PC, I get why people prefer consoles, because you don't have to fuck around with all these technical modding and stuff. You just get it out of the box, and that is a huge perk of consoles, and that is a reason why people like me and others prefer consoles overall. I prefer consoles like in general, but for VNs it's more of a mixture of the two. There's trade-offs to each, and that means I've been playing through a lot of stuff like Dramatical Murders, one of the big ones. That is basically one of the most, if not the most popular boys love game ever. It's yaoi. It's like the nichest of the niche in terms of VN genres, but outside of specific porn fetish types, because, well, we just don't get them. Like, it was only last year on the Switch we actually got the first English supported release, and that was Hashihime of Your Booktown, which I've heard is really good, by the way. I want to play that like as soon as I can, but also like it's really niche. Like Dramatical Murder, like that got a Vita port years ago, but never came west, obviously. And best way to play it was play on PC. And then if it comes to Switch later with English text, just jump on in and get it. And that's like the pattern that's been broadly like the broad approach I've been taking, especially now. Like okay, some the games by here, like many of these like came to PC first in some form, but some of them are also like on Switch in English now. Some of them have older console ports that never came to the West, and some also like exclusive to Japan as well. And they can get patched in. There are patches out there, like people already working on Shinhei Origami Switch version, like that's getting a patch. And that's kind of cool that people are working on that already, because even the Switch is like 5 years old, people are already starting to translate stuff, which is really fucking cool, and that's so cool. And of course, sometimes you've got even a case of official localizations wanting the best experience, which isn't always offered. Like the most relevant example to this video is the Science Adventure series with the Committee of Zero patches, which is basically mages don't handle the games in the best way officially here. So what this panel of translators do, the Committee of Zero, they go around and basically ensure terms are consistent, remove like censorship, which was often done to pass Sarah ratings boards, and other things like that, making it a better experience, and also fixing a lot of bugs. Like Chaos Head Noah, which I'm not going to go into here, mages were very, they didn't put a lot of care into it. And at the time of recording of the video, there is still no official patch to actually finish the legit version of Chaos Head Noah. Like you can't finish it legit, you have to like look into hacking it to get it finished, because it's, well, mages coded it badly, and that's something that's going to be fixed in the official like Committee Zero release as well, which is just that, and translating it and stuff like that is just these kind of things. And that particular patch is coming to both PC and the Switch version. and PC make it more accessible, work with the Steam version. Pretty much all the Science Adventure releases outside of the original Steins Gate have some form of Community of Zero patch. And superior experience, like you'd have to go out your way to code it for a console release, which may never happen. With PC, you can just code it in, and that's like why it's there. And to me, it's like, it's this kind of thing that's like, I feel that if you're going to play like visual novels, play both. Like, if you limit yourself to one, whether it be for PC or for console, you're missing out. Like, I can think for consoles, there are some console VMs, especially Otome games, you still can't get on PC to this day. Like, Code Realize is a big one. Like, that's like one of the most recommended Otome games. You can get it on PS Vita, PS4, and the Switch, but not on PC, which is really weird. And other ones like Horrix Malice, Cupid Parasite, loads more. World End Syndrome's another one, which is not an Otome game, but that's another example. And as things currently stand, A Witch on the Holy Night, which is an upcoming release of the first Type Moon VN, that's currently only announced for consoles, might come to PC, might not, but that's an example. And yeah, I just feel like nowadays, like, that old logic I mentioned before was wrong. Be open-minded, talk about these things, play on multiple platforms, enjoy yourself, and I get the access barriers, I do, like, that's one reason I struggled to play them on like PC for years. But now the Steam Deck's a thing, you can basically mod the Steam Deck, have it portable like a book, and basically go from there. I'm hoping to get one eventually, partly for purely read visual novels. So yeah, buy a £500 console for visual novels? Yes, please. Anyway, that's it for today. I'm probably going to cut this back a bit because I rambled a lot and it wasn't always the most coherent. So if it's any cuts, that's me saving time to make this video more engaging for the algorithm. Speaking of the algorithm, like, comment, subscribe, notification bell, etc. Leave lovely comments and supportive stuff, hopefully. If you have any suggestions on videos or anything like that, let me know too. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.